Climate change is very severe, especially from my childhood, because I'm 65 years. The experience I've got over the years is truly true that climate has changed.
Nitie lokruok. Mana kango donjo ka pira biro gang'wen. Koth ne chwe kabisa kendo ne piny chie. To sani to koro kochwe. Sani chwe mathin.
Like this season, we did plant, thinking that the rain will come in time. But to our surprise, the rain came very late. And you will find even our harvest now, we were expecting 80%. It has gone now to 40% only.
Climate change is being felt around the world, and nowhere is it more destructive than in Africa. But it's not only global warming that is increasing poverty amongst people directly dependent on the land for their livelihoods. Climate change is actually compounding a problem that has been growing for the past 30 years.
I was married here in 1975. During those days, these hills were covered with trees. I mean, it was a forest. And then people started cutting down trees for charcoal and firewood. And the forest has disappeared.
Clarissa Buto lives in Western Kenya, where deforestation is creating havoc with local ecosystems and impacting heavily on farms.
The way the farm is situated just below the hills, we experience a lot of water runoff and topsoil erosion. And so the fertility of our soil, we no longer produce those big maize cobs that we used to in the 70s. I have seen that deteriorate down the years.
Water erosion as a result of runoff and increasingly exposed soils due to poor agricultural and livestock practices have resulted in gullies like this throughout the area. For 20 years, Emmanuel Julu has watched this 20-foot deep and 5-kilometre long gully steadily carving through the land.
The increase of the gullies and the soil erosion, if they are not treated, all the homes will be washed away because they are dangerous gullies facing the homes. Some farms will also be washed away.
With 80% of people dependent on the health of their soils and water systems for their survival, poverty has been on the increase in many parts of Kenya, as unsustainable practices have steadily undermined the country's resources. Petronilla Opata is a typical case. A single parent of 5, her family are under extreme stress as her farm is suffering from the effects of decreasing soil fertility, erosion, and the impacts of Kenya's most recent drought. For the second year running, her crop of maize has failed.
Donga pure to anaparo ni tuo ne mo miyo ko chieng nikech onge gi ng'ich piny. Nena gimo tuo ka dhi piny. Sami pure to chambe beyo to ka chieng wuok ni to tuo. Koro ok onyal dongo dhi malo.
While it's important to realise that poverty within the soils equates to poverty for those that live on it, when it comes to climate change, there is another serious consequence of land degradation and poor agricultural practices. Professor Pete Smith is the coordinating leading author on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, specialising in agriculture and soils.
Well, it's a double whammy in a way. Firstly, if you mismanage soils by degrading them or by allowing them to erode, you lose the organic matter that's in the soil. The organic matter is carbon, basically. All organic matter on Earth is carbon. So when you lose the organic matter, the carbon dioxide is lost to the atmosphere. The other part of the double whammy is that you decrease the productivity of that land, which means that you can no longer use it for productive agriculture, which means you then need to spread out into other virgin land, which is disastrous in terms of carbon and the greenhouse gas balance.
Soil contains twice the amount of carbon than the atmosphere, and small changes in the soil carbon store can cause large changes in atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations. SCC VI Agroforestry is one organisation that has recognised this powerful potential of soil to mitigate the impacts of global warming and at the same time create resilience amongst farmers to its damaging effects. Now, its promotion of sustainable land management practices is spreading hope across Eastern Africa. Bernard Oliech lives only a few miles from Petronilla's farm, But although he lives under exactly the same conditions, his small piece of land is thriving. His success is partially down to the manure from his cows, which has meant that even in drought, his maize has remained healthy.
The manure helps retain the moisture in the soil. So when we get little rain, the underground now has moisture.
Julius Obonyo has also increased the fertility and moisture retention ability of his soil by halting soil erosion on his land, by digging retention ditches, and planting the nutrient-rich fodder and nitrogen-fixing plant, Kaliandra, along the contours.
Yeah, the quality of the soil has really improved, as you can see. It never used to be this. It used to be sandy loam, a bit rocky, and as you can see now, it's very fine. It contains a lot of moisture. It contains a lot of nutrients. It's a bit blackish, and I find it very, very interesting now to work on my farm because the fertility has also improved. Even if there is drought, I don't experience a lot of problems within the farm because of the soil conservation systems I've done on the farm.
Each system of sustainable land use management is carefully chosen to combat the particular problems each farmer is faced with, and the process starts by understanding how to obtain the maximum benefit from each individual farm. In Julius's case, he was encouraged to change his system of monocropping to dairy farming. Zero grazing methods also solve the problem of overgrazing and land degradation, and thereby further reduce the emission of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. Improved breeding and the nutritious fodder crops also increase milk productivity, and before long Julius was earning an income that was 100 times more than he had before.
Now I have my kids and I'm able to take them to school, and I'm paying the school fees from the proceeds I get from the farm. I can say we are self-sufficient. We have enough to feed the family, and we also have a surplus to take to the market. So the farm has really improved in production, and it has also improved my economic capability.
For Clarissa Buto, the solution was slightly different. With the high amount of runoff from the hills above her farm, her fields were often waterlogged and the topsoil washed away. SCCVI's solution was to encourage Clarisse to dig a small dam, put in a simple water gate system to channel the water to areas where it was needed, raise her beds, and add mulch to the soils. The dam has not only controlled the runoff, it also provides Clarisse with a source of water all year round.
This is how my water gate system has helped me improve my farm. I never dreamt I could grow yams in this part of the country because yams need a lot of water. And so there is a lot of improvement on my farm and on the things that I can now grow.
Florence and Henry Ogondo also work with SCCVI. When they first began farming on this land, they had one cow. By using its manure to fertilize the soil and employing agroforestry methods to further improve the soil's fertility, they have built up their income to a point where they now have 3 cows, plus a thriving hen coop of over 100 layers and an equal number of broilers for sale. They can even afford to pay workers to help them on the farm. Their success has meant that they are completely food secure and self-sufficient, happily supporting their children and grandchildren, who are all comparatively unaffected by the current drought.
For someone, especially now, for someone to get a balanced diet, you see the harvest of this year, no one got harvest. But for us, we are lucky we got 3 bags of maize from our shamba here. So I find it easier now because I can also get milk, the vegetables, I can get the proteins from the chickens. Our health is okay, plus the health of our grandchildren.
All of SCCVI's farmers are very aware of how climate change is affecting them and will do everything they can to survive and mitigate its impacts.
Due to climate change, the community is unable to get enough. So that is why I planted more trees. The trees that I've planted in the farm here is 1,380. so that I can reduce that carbon in the atmosphere.
As well as helping to restore what was once degraded pasture to a fertile carbon pool, Bernard uses his trees for firewood in an economy fuel-burning stove, further reducing his own impact on the environment. To help farmers like Bernard, SCC VI Agroforestry are in the process of managing a unique carbon finance scheme that will mean farmers will be able to receive carbon credits for the carbon they're managing to sequester in the soil. This could mean the icing on the cake for these farmers, who will be able to collectively benefit from the income.
These payments can assist them to build some facilities like health facility, water and other amenities within this region. So we see these communities going to be improved, and then the standard of living is going to be improved also.
My recommendation would be to consider agricultural projects for carbon finance. There are many potential benefits, not just for the smallholders, but in terms of the climate. So if we look globally, 70% of our mitigation potential in agriculture is in developing countries. So if we don't harness that potential, the developing world also suffers. That's greenhouse gases that we don't mitigate, that we could mitigate. So we have to manage our soils better, and we have to include agriculture in future climate agreements. Otherwise we're missing a significant chunk of our mitigation potential globally.
Sustainable land management practices have the potential to provide us with a winning scenario. They help provide development to impoverished areas of the world. They increase a farmer's resilience to climate change, and they mitigate the effects of climate change on a global scale.
The major thing I would tell my fellow community members and the farmers at large is that this land is his for now. But what about the generation of tomorrow? If you don't protect it now, then the future generation will not find it. So you better protect it for the future generation.